My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission, as always, is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the real estate market in Eagle River, Alaska. This is a very small, compact, but a very important real estate market, and the entire makeup of what happens in South Central Alaska. It is very desirable, and because of a lot of amenities to it, kind of a good lifestyle here, and it's also pretty close to Anchorage, where majority of people do work in the area. Before we get started, though, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, the first thing that I want to look at when we're taking a look at the real estate market is what's going on in the single-family residential market. And the first thing we want to look at when we're looking at the single-family is what's going on in the active inventory, because we can have a lot of demand. If there's no houses, it doesn't matter. And that's almost where we're at there, by the way. So we see that this time last year, there were 30 properties available on the market, and now for the month of February, there are 26. So not a whole lot of homes that are available out there, and that's especially poignant when we go a little further back from just last year, because usually, like starting in 2020, before everything kind of went sideways, there were usually about 100 to about 120 properties that were available on the market. So you do see that there's a drop from the year before, but compared to the previous years, it's a lot more precipitous than it looks like. The next thing we see is that the number of properties that actually sold for the residential market went from about 14 last year to about 15 this year, which means that we do see an increase for the number of properties that are selling, even though we do see a slight decrease in the inventory, which does speak to the demand for homes in Eagle River. For this next one, I'm going to tell you what the numbers are, and I'm going to say let's go and pump the brakes a little bit and wait till we get some more data coming in. But what we see is that looking at the average sold price just for the month of February, we see that this time last year, the average sold price was about $540, and this year it's about $500 even. So before we get too excited and start saying, yay, Eagle River homes at a discount, that's not really what I would expect. When we're looking at just 1 month, it's normal to kind of see some swings in one way or the other. And really what we have to look at is kind of what we're going to be seeing when we're about midsummer, because that's where the majority of homes are going to be bought and sold in Eagle River is going to be kind of during that summer time frame. And when I say summer time frame, what you have to keep in mind is we do have a lot of homes that are going to be bought and sold. Well, actually sold and transferred ownership around that June, July, May timeframe. And it's not because they went under contract during that time. It's because they went under contract a couple months previous, because it does take about 2 months to close on a property here in Alaska. So it's heating up quick here, and we want to be part of that summer market, then probably sooner rather than later, just with the reality of how the market works. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is what's going on as far as the condo market in Eagle River, and this isn't really a huge segment of the overall real estate market in Eagle River. I suspect it's going to become a lot more prevalent moving forward, because there's definite amount of land that we can use to actually build, and we're kind of coming to the limit of how much we can actually build just because of a lack of land. So condos are probably going to become more and more prevalent as we move forward. But for right now, though, not a huge part of the market, because this time last year there was 1 condo available. In this month, there is 7. So that's right, we are seeing a pretty hefty, proportionally anyway, increase for the number of condos that are available, which is good if that's something that you're wanting to get into. I can definitely see a lot of benefits of owning a condo in Eagle River. Now, the next thing we see for condos is that this time last year, there was 1 condo that had actually sold, and this year there are 4. So we do see an increased demand for condos in Eagle River. That could also just mean that maybe the demand stayed the same, but the inventory increased, and so people were actually able to get their foot in the door. So that may very well be what it is as well. Okay, last but not least, we do see that the average sold price for condos just for the month of February went from about $325,000 for the month of February last year. This year, we're sitting right at about $300,000 even, which on paper, that looks like we are seeing a big dip in the average sold price. Before we get too excited, let's just keep in mind, though, that once we're looking at a sample size of of this size where it's only like 4 or so properties. It really comes down to what specific properties were bought and sold this time last year compared to this year. So that is what I would expect to see. And also, this is going to be 1 month, and prices month to month can kind of fluctuate a little bit. Really, we kind of want to take a look at what the accurate year-to-date prices are. And at this point, it's still a pretty new year, so it's hard to get a good gauge of that. But yes, shows that there is a decrease in the average sold price. I'm a little skeptical of that, but that's what the data says right now. Let's wait and see what the numbers show in the next couple of months. All right, let's go and take a bit of a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a little bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, where we talk with people who've recently moved up to Alaska about their experiences of living up here and adjusting to living on the last frontier. If that's something that would benefit you, do make sure you go check that out. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at what's going on as far as the multifamily market in Eagle River. So this time last year, there were not any multifamily properties that were available. This year, there are 2. So, this is your big opportunity if you're wanting to get into the multifamily scene in Eagle River. All right, now looking at the number of properties that have actually sold this time last year, there were 0, and this year there are 1. So, there you go. We're seeing a big bonanza there. Now, I'm always kind of hesitant to use the average sold price when we're looking at multifamily, just because there are so many more variables with the average sold price for multifamily than you get with even a single-family home, just because multifamily includes everything from the duplex all the way up to like this big commercial, 30-plex property. And so there's obviously a lot of chance for variability there. Looking at the average sold price, we didn't have anything sell this time last year, so it was 0, but the average sold price now was $875. But because we only had 1, there we go. Property sold that was just $875. So that doesn't give us a whole lot of insights just from this. Anecdotally, though, I can tell you that multifamily properties in Eagle River are pretty desirable. There is a lower cap rate, so you're not going to get as high of an ROI, but you're also going to be getting far less of a headache than you're going to get with investing in other areas. And for that reason, Eagle River is a pretty desirable area, if for no other reason, just because of that, because of the people you're usually going to be attracting, as long as you're doing all the screening and everything that you're supposed to, are usually going to be giving you much better results than you would otherwise. So that's why investments in Eagle River are going to continue being pretty desirable. All right, so what does this all mean? Well, number one, if you're a buyer, it means that homes in Eagle River are going to continue to be valuable and desirable moving forward, just because it does provide a good place where it has kind of a small town feel while still giving you only a short commute over to Anchorage. And there's a lot of great benefits to Eagle River as well, I've talked about in other videos. And so I'm not expecting to see any kind of a crash in the actual values for Eagle River. We did see kind of that dip in the average sold price. That can kind of just be seasonal, and it can be a month-to-month fluke. We're going to keep an eye on it for sure. I wouldn't necessarily expect to see any kind of a big wholesale crash anytime soon. If you are a seller, it means that we're in a market that heavily does favor sellers, not as much as it was back in 2020 or 2021. Because, back in those days, you can pretty much just throw anything up there on the MLS and it would probably sell with multiple offers. Now you are going to have to actually put in some work, and you might not get like the 10, 20, 30 offers or whatever that some houses were getting. Still high in demand, not by as much though. Okay, so just make sure the expectation isn't that you're going to have the same experience that your neighbor did when they sold a couple of years ago. But the good news is that as long as it's priced correctly and we're doing everything we need to, the odds are pretty good that you're going to be able to sell it in pretty short order. So this has been your market update looking at Eagle River. I sure hope it's been valuable. This is just kind of the surface level stuff. So if you'd like to chat a little bit and see how this relates to your situation, make sure you reach out to me on my website down below, and be more than happy to help as best I can with that. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.